It's a clear winner between these two shoes. If I can only choose one, shoe comparison review I got for you guys today. So we are going to put the Brooks Glycerin 22 up against the Saucony Triumph 23. So I'll go through their similarities, differences and key features, and hopefully from that, that'll give you guys a great indication of choosing the right shoe for you. But before we get into it, and if you guys want to support the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And with the specs, so both these two shoes are neutral premium daily trainers and pretty closely matched there in the price, but you're going to pay a little bit more in Australia for the Glycerin, but a little bit more in the US for the Saucony. Now, in the weight, now this is the thing that jumps out to me the most, the Triumph 23, much lighter package than the 22. Now, can you really feel that? Well, I can certainly feel it on the hand and you can certainly feel it on the foot because the Triumph 23 feels like the much more nimble shoe. And in the stacks there, very evenly matched, not much between them, but I tell you what you can notice, and that is the drop. So both have 10mm drops, but I do think that the Glycerin feels like it's got the higher drop. And with the uppers, so what I will say is both shoes using very premium plush materials. But with our Glycerin 22, they call this one a double jacquard mesh, I believe. But as I just said, quite premium. Breathability probably could be better. Really solid heel counter on the back. Plush amount of padding around the heel collar. A super plush padded tongue. The tongue is not gusseted though, which is interesting here. But I haven't had an issue with this tongue moving around left to right. Big, plush, puffy laces. Interesting lacing system here. So there's got a combination of some reinforced eyelets and some little lace loops. But overall, does a pretty good job of locking the foot down on the shoe. Not bad here through the midfoot, no heel slippage at the back. Now in the fit, I did opt to come half size up in the Glycerin 22. It's just because it's just got so much padding. It's one of the most padded shoes I think that's on the market. So it was a little bit snug for me in my true to size. So I come up a little bit of extra room, much appreciated there. Now with the the Triumph 23, so engineered mesh here. It does again look like a jacquard sort of mesh, but just like the Glycerin, really solid heel counter at the back and a plush amount of padding around the heel collar and a plush padded tongue, but you do get a gusseted tongue here in the Triumph. Also, the Triumph does feature a nice little Achilles flare on the back, but just like the Triumph, they've got big, plush, puffy laces, but no issues with those coming undone. Standard eyelets down either side. Great midfoot lockdown and no heel slippage in the back. I will say, sorry, that the Triumph does have the better lockdown between the two shoes. In the fit, the Triumph is bang on for me, so true to size in the length. The width is normal and there's a good amount of toe box volume as well. So even with all this plush padding, it doesn't feel like that I'm too restricted in this one. And in the outsole, so what we've got here in the Glycerin 22 is a very thick lathering of their road tack rubber, and it's got a really interesting tread pattern as well. Although it is segmented off, there is just so much of this rubber. What I will say though, this road tack rubber, extremely durable, and it's doing a great job here to protect the foam of this shoe. But in the grip department, in the dry, obviously it's always good, but in the wet, this one turns into a bit of an ice skate. So no good on a freshly wet road. It's okay on the pavement or on the concrete, but yeah, on a tarmac road, slippery. Now, same sort of thing though is going on here with the Triumph 23. So XT900 is the rubber that they use. Certainly not as much rubber here. It's probably a little bit smarter the way they've used their rubber on the bottom and keeping the weight down in the shoe. Now, there's enough rubber on here though still to boost the durability of the shoe and sort of just protect this foam just enough, but you're certainly just going to get enough protection of the amount of rubber that they've got on the bottom. So don't be too concerned that it doesn't have as much rubber as the Glycerin 22, but performance wise in the grip department, in the dry conditions again, it is okay, like it's fine, but in the wet, just like this shoe, they do both turn into an ice skate. So on those freshly wet roads. But I must say when comparing these two shoes, so I have compared them on a wet road just recently, and I'm going to say the XT900 is slightly better, believe it or not, than this road tack rubber, because this XT900 in this new Triumph it's certainly an improvement of the same rubber that they've used in other models. So Saucony slowly winding up the grip here, but it still needs to improve, certainly in both shoes. And in the midsole, so what they've got going on here in the Glycerin 22 is DNA tuned. Now that is a nitrogen injected midsole foam, and they call it tuned because they've tuned the foam differently in different parts of the shoe. So that this foam did feature in the Glycerin Max. However, I have to tell you now that this is totally a different foam that they do use in the Glycerin Max. That feels nothing like it. But same sort of concept of what they've got going on here. So bigger foam or bigger nitrogen bubbles injected into the rear and smaller ones in the front. So the idea of it is the bigger bubbles will provide some softness and some bounce through the rear, and the smaller bubbles firming up the front of the shoe to add a little bit of pop and responsiveness. Now, no plate or anything in the shoe. Rigidity wise, it's a pretty flexible shoe, but certainly twist test wise, it is still a pretty solid shoe. So nice and stable there. In the geometry department, we've got a little bit of a curvature there in the front of the shoe, but I'm going to say overall, the geometry in this shoe is traditional. In comparison now to the 23, so Power Run PB is the foam that they're using here. So this foam is the same foam, or it's called the same foam as what they use in the Endorphin series. So the Speed and the Pro, however, it's tuned differently. So it's not the exact same foam. We've got one big slab of that, no plate or anything in the shoe. Rigidity wise though, this shoe is a little bit more flexible than what you're going to get in the Glycerin. Twist test wise, it's probably about the same, so it still feels quite stable. Now in the geometry department, we have got a bit of a 4-foot rocker here in the front of the Triumph, and I will say that the Triumph does feel like the more rockered shoe when in comparison to the Glycerin 22. And in the rides, well, if you read what is written on the websites about both two shoes, they both pretty much say that they've got a nice, soft, plush landings with responsive toe off. So both pretty much claiming the same thing. However, both rides couldn't be any more different for me. So with the Glycerin 22, so with this tuned midsole, so the bigger bubbles in the rear here. So do you get a soft landing with this shoe? Well, yes, you do get a soft landing in the shoe, but there is not a lot of squish in the shoe, so the foam is quite dense. There is some great shock absorption properties with this shoe, but overall, the bounce in this shoe is very minimal. So it's quite boring. It's a little bit dead feeling. And then as you're transitioning through your toe off, yeah, it does firm up a little bit, but there's no pop, there's no responsive. It doesn't feel lively through toe off at all. It just feels a little bottom heavy and overall probably a little bit dead. But just remember, it is very comfortable, it's very stable, it's a very safe shoe, but a little bit lifeless when in comparison to the 23. So this one, yes, it is everything that they claim on the website. Nice soft landing, there is a bit of squish into it, but it's an energetic softness. It's got a great amount of bounce. The transition is really smooth, so this rocker is finely tuned, complements the foam beautifully, and it's really easy to tick the legs over. You feel quite efficient in the shoe. It doesn't feel bottom heavy. Yeah, the overall ride though, yeah, energetic softness, very smooth. So a much more enjoyable running experience. And again, it is just as stable as the Glycerin 22. And best shoes, although both these two shoes are targeted at the same types of runs, so your daily miles, your easy days, recovery days, the Triumph 23 is the more versatile shoe. So if you do need to pick up the pace at all, so the Triumph 23 with this energetic foam, with this smooth ride, it can certainly handle the pace a lot better than what it can in the Glycerin 22. And also in the longer run department, the lighter ride, the more efficient ride is far more suited here in the 23 over the bottom heavy Glycerin 22. So what's jumped out to me when directly comparing these two shoes against each other, so wearing one shoe at a time, swapping between each shoe, is just how lifeless the Glycerin 22 does feel. So when you actually test it on its own, and I do my initial reviews, when you're just testing the shoe for its own qualities, it didn't come across as a bad shoe, but when you put it up against a shoe like this, it just, yeah, the differences between these two shoes are astonishing. So I don't know if you are going into your running store and you're trying both these two shoes on and you're comparing both these two shoes, I don't think there's many people out there that the Glycerin 22 is going to win over the Triumph 23. Unless you're a really die-hard Glycerin or a Brooks fan, then I don't know who is actually going to pick the Glycerin over the Triumph 23. And for me, it's a clear winner between these two shoes. If I can only choose one, it's hands down an easy win for the Triumph 23. But anyway, guys, that's it from me. Any questions you've got regarding these two shoes or how they relate to anything else, hit me up in the comments. Thanks for watching. Make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.